Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our live presentation on the Olympics. I'm Nick Pallavita. I'm going to be your host for today in this very short program. And of course, we do have some very special guests and some very special announcements we're going to make. And first of all, let's bring in our wonderful commentator, Jackie. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so the thing is, it looks like we lost Ankit due to apparently technical reasons, and then Ada has a sore throat. So, and I carry the same thing. In other words, people are getting sick, but Jackie did not get sick. So, yesterday we had the opening ceremonies, which was pretty cool. We noticed that there were some countries like the Cook Islands that only had 8,000 people. That's their total country. Excuse me, 9,000 people, but they brought several people to there, but to the opening ceremonies. And Jackie, you do have a report on what the Olympics is, so if you can give us a report, that would be very helpful at this time.
Sure thing. I'd be glad to do so. So ever since yesterday, in regards for the Olympics, we've seen many different series of events taking place. And a few things that I'd like to point out today is during this year's Olympics in Tokyo, there's actually more than 160 LGBTQ athletes who are competing. And I will say this is very important, especially on the international scale, because this Olympics, it's definitely bringing some more light and attention to the LGBT community. So they will definitely be highlighted this year. There has also been a refugee Olympic team that is also competing. And I think this is the first time ever since the Olympics is actually hosting a refugee Olympic team. And they are comprised of 29 players from 12 different countries. And the goal of this is to spread hope and awareness from all sorts of different people throughout a bunch of war-torn countries. And during the opening ceremonies, they walked in immediately after Greece. So I thought that was definitely a very important highlight.
Yeah, I did notice that. The thing is, they had a refugee team. But also, do you notice that Russia is not competing as the name Russia? They're competing as RCO. Well, what's all that about? Why aren't they competing as Russia?
Honestly, that is a good question. That honestly did baffle me a little bit because I'm like, why isn't Russia normally competing under its given country name? But definitely, I do think a interesting series of events will take place because it definitely seems that Russia is becoming more of the underdog right over here. They definitely lack a little bit of their confidence more than usual. So that's something we will definitely have to keep an eye out on.
Mm-hmm. And your parents are from Syria, and I
Mm-hmm.
did notice that Syria actually did have a team. So
Mm-hmm.
they actually sent a team. Can you tell us a little bit about the Syrian
Oh,
situation?
definitely, for sure. Honestly, I was very shocked, honestly, when Syria they had a team and they were competing in the Tokyo Olympics this year. That's honestly, that's never happened before, but it's honestly really a good thing because we have a 12-year-old Syrian girl who is also competing in hand ping pong on one team. And then we have a few other players on the Syrian team who are also competing in the swimming competition and the gymnastics competition. So I also do believe that they are also going up against other countries, probably Germany and the United States. So there are a lot of interesting series of events to look out for.
Mm-hmm. So how do these smaller countries, Jackie, how are they able to compete against such large countries as the United States and China and frankly Russia, I guess, because they're not even a Russian. How does a small country, how are they able to compete against these larger countries when it comes to doing these events?
Well, normally no one expects a small country like Syria, for an example, to compete against, the biggest economy of the world, the United States or Russia and stuff like that, especially given the fact that Syria is still a war-torn country. So you'd normally expect, they probably don't have the proper facilities or they probably don't have the right players or they're not at the competitive athletic level that other major countries are at. But I think it's very inspiring to see that even a war-torn country can still pull together some positivity and some motivation and gather up some players and say, all right, we're going to go ahead, we're going to compete a little bit. But I do think that ultimately the goal of all of this is to promote a lot of awareness to 80 million displaced people in the world today, and to also promote that even though, yes, we are a war-torn country, we can still compete at a high international level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what about the refugee team? You talked about a refugee team, so we'll put it up there. And I thought that was pretty interesting. How does the refugee team work? Are they considered like a country, or how do they participate? Or do you know?
Well, I did notice about the refugee team that they are also competing under the Olympic flag. And the thing about the refugee team is they are comprised of 12, they're all from 12 different countries. So normally in the picking, there were more than 56 applicants, but only 29 people were chosen out of the 12 different countries. And so we have a lot of people from different war-torn countries, and especially like normally countries that we really don't expect to see much from, including Syria and Pakistan, and different other parts of the Middle East as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also they have a lot of new different events. Jackie, I noticed they have skateboarding as an event,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite interesting. I think that's the first time that they're going to have skateboarding. Can you tell us a little bit about that event that's coming up, skateboarding?
Normally, yeah, honestly. So for skateboarding, normally I don't think any one of us expects skateboarding to actually be an Olympic sport. But in regards for skateboarding, that has also made its name to the international level, especially to the Olympics this year. And so we will definitely be seeing many different countries participating in skateboarding this year. I'm not really sure if the refugee team will be participating in the skateboarding team, but definitely the refugee team is competing in the games such as basketball, swimming, gymnastics, and hand ping pong.
Okay, so what are your favorite events? I notice they have like hundreds of different types of events. What are the favorite events that you're looking to look at today, or must-watch TV for today?
Oh, definitely. I think the important sports to look out for today would definitely be volleyball and basketball. I think those two sports are very competitive within themselves, and there will definitely be a lot of international attention on them as of right now throughout the Olympics this year. There is definitely a lot of competition for basketball, especially like big countries like the United States. And since they've lost to different countries so far, but you definitely want to keep your eye out on basketball and volleyball because there is a lot of competition from different international countries.
Okay, so on the opening ceremony, they also had they basically introduced all the countries, and some of them were extremely large contingents, some are small. But wasn't there some economic disparity that existed? In other words, some of the countries that didn't have the financial resources were unable to send large teams, even though they had a fairly large population base. Do we see a lot of financial disparity when it comes to the Olympics?
Unfortunately, we do because there has been a lot of financial problems given the fact that the country, well, we've all been shut down for a year or so, and now we're trying to restart and reopen, and we're resuming with the Olympics after a year or so, and so a lot of financial issues can arise. For an example. Especially in a lot of financial issues will be seen in more of like the smaller countries, like the countries with like less resources, like Syria, Lebanon. Lebanon is also facing a huge financial crisis as of right now, and definitely other places like in the Middle East and Africa, including Africa as well. And so, unfortunately, that will prevent them from being able to have more facilities and more of an advantage in order to being able to compete on such a high international level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do notice also that there's some tennis players involved. I believe Kerry was saying that there's a tennis player called Djokovic, who's actually a pretty good tennis player, who's going to be playing in the Olympics. What drives these individuals to participate in the Olympics where there's really no financial rewards, as opposed to saying, well, I'm going to go skip it because I've got a big tournament going up? Why do people compete in the Olympics, which has very little financial rewards, as opposed to going into a tournament where they could actually be financially successful?
I will say probably they go into it wanting to, play, just genuinely play from the bottom of their hearts. I genuinely believe it's like they want to make a name for themselves. At the same time, it's they don't want to take on the pressure of receiving the financial benefits from it. So I think it's a good start for them to establish their name, where they're from, which country they're representing, because unfortunately, as something that we also see today, especially in the Olympics, is there are still some countries that aren't as represented on the international level as they should be. So I think it's a great way to say, this is my name, this is what country I'm from, this is who I am, this is what sport I'm playing. Let's bring some recognition to my country a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is, when they do this, they do have a world stage. It looks like that this goes to all the countries. So when people are watching the Olympics, they're not watching it just here in the United States, but they're watching it all over the world, literally. And it gives their country a positive light. But the thing is, what gets me also is the wars that exist between a lot of these countries, and I think, and the issues that exist. And I'm going to pick on Iran because Iran was there in the U.S., and apparently there's a lot of issues between Iran and the United States of America. And all I could think of was, why would they have a problem with us when we came in and we overthrew their government years ago, and they're still smarting from what happened decades ago? How are these people able to interact on an international stage when there's some tension or friction between the political aspects of these individual countries? How are they able to be with each other? I guess that would be it.
Sure. I mean, it's honestly a given between the United States and Iran. There's a lot of geopolitical tension between the two countries. But I think ultimately the end goal for both of the countries, especially given on a lot of TV networks that we see them, giving the appearance that, like they're hand in hand and like the players are so close together, is they have an end goal, which is obviously, every team that is competing this year obviously has the end goal saying that I want to win the medal. I want to win the award. I want to win the medal. That's my goal. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Of course, like they will, give the appearance, that they're very like close hand in hand. But of course, that doesn't take away from the fact that there is still a lot of lingering tension between the two countries, given all of their political and geopolitical past.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a tough question. Okay. So now we had all the softball questions, here becomes a tough question. And this always bothers me as studying history and wars, because it seems to me history is a lot about wars. Okay. Mm-hmm. And here's the real tough question. Okay. And I know your parents are from Syria. Mm-hmm. What are they fighting over in Syria? I still haven't figured it out. I know humans, that's the reason I like computers, because computers really don't fight too often. They break down like mine did yesterday, but they don't fight. I like my dog will fight because she just doesn't like other dogs. Okay. Humans fight all the time. Okay. Which really bothers me about the human race. And then what gets me is, what are they fighting over? In other words, like, what is the big deal in Syria that they're fighting over? Can you just give me some idea? You probably have more insight than I do, because I see all the aftermath. I mean, we show the pictures of Aleppo. It looks pretty bad. You see all this, trouble over there. It looks really bad. But at the end of the day, what are they fighting over? What's the big deal?
Well, here's the thing, because Middle East politics is very complicated within itself. But my mom, she grew up her whole life in Syria, and so Syria at the time, from the 1970s until the early 2000s, it was under a socialist rule. So life in Syria used to be socialist, but the war in Syria as of right now, or the war that has started in Syria since 2011, basically what they're fighting over is there's more of a religious war that's actually being taking place. Because in Syria, the country is 90% Muslim and only 10% Christian. So the issue is, it's like the whole issue in Syria was the Islamic radicals. They wanted to completely Islamify the country, Syria, meaning whatever remaining Christian percentages in the country, they wanted to completely wipe it out. So that's one area of focus that they're fighting over, is there's a religious aspect that they're fighting over. But then they're also fighting over that Syria is also having other international countries trying to invade it. And normally it's like every country that comes into the Middle East are always after our oil. We're known for our oil. So you have the US trying to interfere with Syria, trying to possibly take our oil. Then you have Saudi Arabia that's trying to do the same thing. And then you have Israel. Israel is, being more aggressive with us. Israel always has the excuse saying, oh, we're only trying to bomb or shoot Iranian rebels in Syria. But that's just another excuse to bomb as much as they want in Syria. Because it's not about Iran. It's just about, let's continue to bomb Syria. And then you have Russia, which, Russia is saying, oh, we're on Syria's side. We're trying to defend Syria. But Russia also has influence in Syria in regards for the people and the society. And so ultimately, as of right now, there has been a lot of societal changes. And of course, it's like war does that to a country. A lot of people, a lot of ethics will change over the period of time due to the war. And so as of right now, things have thankfully stabilized a little bit. Things are more stable than they were earlier on in 2011. But still, ultimately, it's the only reason why there's so much conflict going on in Syria is because of all of the international interferences, and because there's also that religious aspect that they're fighting over.
Oh, wow. Okay. We also have another big country that's going to join us from New Delhi. Let's bring in Ankit Kandlawar. Ankit, good morning and welcome to, good morning, I guess, here, but good evening in New Delhi, and welcome to our Olympic show. We're running short staff today because what?
We got our first Olympic medal this time, and we got a silver medal. And I think US is still 0, and we have 1 medal right now in the tally.
Well, see, I always have my response ready, Ankit. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we don't have any, and you guys have 1 medal. Okay. What did India win a medal in? What was the thing they won it in?
We got the medal in weightlifting. So one of our lifters, she pulled up the good weight. She was very much close to the gold medal, but then she lost in first attempt, and then she got the silver medal. But that was a good show. And but we lost a couple of games as well today, including an archery game and the boxing game. Right now we are playing hockey with Netherlands, and we are losing that game as well by 3-1. But it's still on the field hockey. But at this point of time, a lot of countries who have started the gold medal. China got 2 gold, Japan got 1, Korea got 1, and likewise.
Okay, well, I can help you out, Ankit. Oh, there we go. see, the thing is that this we can support the Indian team because you guys have 1 medal and the U.S. doesn't have any. But the games are just getting started. So, what are we looking forward to going into these games for today? What are we looking at?
Nothing. I mean, there are a couple of games which was the medal games as of now. So people are very much into that. But the sad part is that the medal ceremony is not happening this time, and that is the sad part because people do a lot of cheer ups and then they celebrate the medal show when someone give you the greetings and all this stuff. So now what happened is that you have to pick your medal and do it yourself. So you are losing. You don't have that calm, and then you're not getting the bouquet of flowers, and then also you can't bite your medal or you can't take a picture or kiss your medal, which was one of the major pictures in the Olympic basically, because people were looking forward to those kind of pictures. But that is a missing factor right now. But as of now, it's going fine. There are a couple of cases of COVID in Japan, but still things are going normal as per plan, and very much enthusiastic and excited about the future games coming up. So it's just a day 1 according to the games basically. Because yesterday was more towards the ceremony, but today majorly the game have started and the people have started winning the medal. So let's see how that goes in the future.
Okay, well we're an equal opportunity employer here. So Jackie, who's done a great job in your absence, Ada's absence, Kiri's absence, we only can say one thing. There we go. That'll help her out. Okay, because they do have a team, and hopefully they'll be able to win a medal. But I think they're all winners by just being able to go. I mean, if you have an opportunity to travel internationally and see other cultures and people, maybe it'll stop. And she gave me a great insight on why there's a war in Syria, because I'm going like, for me as a greedy capitalist, I would not destroy an entire city, okay, over, a religious issue. I would try to figure a way to keep Aleppo intact and keep all these crazies out of the situation. But I still, even all the stuff that she described, I don't think it's worth fighting over. That's my opinion. In other words, there should be a way that dispute resolution should take place in a fashion where you don't have to destroy your own country because you disagree with someone's religion. I mean, that's kind of like ridiculous. But this has plagued humankind from the inception. It's been a real problem. Now in India, you have 1.4 billion people, Ankit. How do you get the 1.4 billion people to all get along? Or do they? I mean, I've never been to India, so I have no idea.
So, I mean, I think people get along like well. It's more about the politics at the federal side or at the central side of it. But as of now, I think everything is fine because it's a big country. Everyone will have their own room and spaces. But we have a lot of issues in terms of religious issues or maybe issues between poor and rich and stuff like that. But that's a part of the democracy. And then it's going fine as of now. There are some cases of things going on in between. But with 1.4 billion people, you have to understand that there will be some thing going on in the bigger country. But as of now, everything is peaceful and fine. And if someone will visit India, then they will be able to understand India, because a lot of journalists or people around the world, they wanted to write about India. But you can't write about India sitting in London or US or somewhere like that. Once you visit the country, then you'll understand that it's a mixed culture of a lot of different religions and cultures and understanding and languages, and they still come together as a part of one country. Because if I have to go to South India or Central India, I might not understand their language, because we have more than 5,000 scripts of languages, and then every 50 kilometers, the tongue and the pronunciation changes in India. So it's difficult, but still, I mean, we understand that we all are Indians, and we have to respect to our flag and the country, and we respect each other, and that is what is important for all the humanities to understand and to proceed forward. And the best part about India is that we have a lot of communities apart from the government stuff. So we do a lot of donations. There's a lot of community in terms of religious communities and all those stuff. And in India is only country where you'll get free kitchens round the corner, 24/7. So there are a lot of free big kitchens which create foods or cook food for more than 1 million people every day, which is a rare in a lot of countries. So that's happening in India on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I was hoping that the Olympics, because it's an international base, will give countries a better understanding of the people culture of other different countries and respect for them, and that rather than compete on the war side, in other words, compete on the plains of Jericho, fighting with tanks, that we end up competing on an athletic basis, which I think is a lot better. In other words, it's a healthy form of competition. Athletics is, as opposed to wars, are frankly pretty unhealthy type of competition. Yeah. So somewhere we need to migrate to more healthy competition in this world. So that's one reason I think the Olympics is a great thing. I think that Ted Turner tried to do the Goodwill Games for the same purposes, to get the different countries interacting with each other and getting the people from different countries to see different viewpoints. And hopefully we'll be able to see that in these Olympic Games in Tokyo, in spite of the fact no one is there. In other words, because of COVID-19, but a lot of people from the countries are there. I mean, they filled up the stadium. The one big contingent I found is, and we have, a lot of people that view this as from Australia. Okay, because Shaquille and Willie and all these people that come in from Australia on our show, that their country isn't that big, only 25 million people. They sent a contingent nearly 500 people from Australia, because Australia is so big into sports. And you see some of these countries, they may not have a lot of people, but boy, they send people to the Olympics. So that was pretty impressive that they had such a big.
But I think, but Nick, we should understand that it's not about the country who will choose that who will go for Olympics. It's about they have the athletes and the sports people who are qualifying for the Olympic Games. So they have the infrastructure so that people are able to qualify. In India, we don't have that good infrastructure as compared to what you have in Canada, US, or maybe in Australia and stuff like that. But you can see a lot of Chinese people are playing for Australia and for Canada and for US in different sports, because in China they are not getting the right amount of qualification for the Olympics, because there are a lot of players in China as well. Because initially, if you check out the China's history about Olympics, they were not getting that much amount of medal, maybe like 30 years back or 40 years back, but now they are on the top emerging countries, because initially it was USA or Russia or maybe Australia, a couple of countries, but now China is the dominating power. But there is one more fact which I'll tell you, that you heard about a country called Taiwan.
Oh, you mean Chinese Taipei?
Yeah, and and I was like, why they have always in the Olympics the name is Chinese Taipei, but generally known as Taiwan. I mean, I don't understand, because if we are in the
they made a deal with the IOC. It was a bargaining deal. See, China really wants Taiwan to be part of China. I mean, it's kind of this thing with China, which I still don't understand also as well. And I think as the world expands and they expand, they probably will less understand that also. But anyway, for right now, they want Taiwan to be part of China. So to negotiate it, they called it Chinese Taipei to make sure that it falls under the Chinese umbrella. It's the same thing, Ankit, with India and Pakistan. Well, or you could say India and Pakistan. Maybe you want to have it India East and West or something like that, just so your name's bigger. I don't get it. It's a marketing thing, but you're right. Like Hong Kong. Hong Kong competes as part of China now. It's one of this nationalistic. It's one of these nationalistic.
But Nick, you know that Hong Kong has a separate contingent for the Olympics. China and Hong Kong have a separate contingent. They are not under the one country.
Oh, really? Okay, so Hong Kong's competing separately? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
They're
right. So that's Chinese Hong Kong.
In fact, you can see Macau is also competing separately.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, the thing is, U.S., we need to start changing our attitude, because Guam was competing separately. We need to call it the American Guam. There we go. You see what I mean? So we need to kind of do the same thing, over here. We just haven't done that yet. So when these countries that are close to us compete, we just need to slap our brand on it. So we'll call it American Puerto Rico or something like that. And we're pretty close to Jamaica, so maybe it could be American Jamaica. So we get our brand up there. But other than branding, I don't see any reason for it. The thing I'm jealous about really is, and you should be too, Ankit, is coming from North Carolina. Our state has over 10 million people. We're bigger than a lot of the countries that are competing. Okay, but we're not a country. In other words, and if we were a country, I would think, wow, we could send a lot of people to Olympics. Not only that, we'd have a lot of diplomats. We'd be able to speak in front of the United Nations. Hi, I'm from the country of North Carolina. I mean, that would be so cool. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we're part of the United States of America, so we're smothered by 330 million other people, being as that may. And we do fight a lot, but Jackie, it's all on Facebook, and people argue all the time here. Okay, we don't burn our own cities. Well, every now and then riots, but we tend to keep that down. But we don't tend to bomb our cities, and tend to. And I think somewhere along the line, the human race needs to get a grip about what they believe is important and what really is important out there. And I think the Olympics is something that can bring people together and start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel rather than the darkness. Now, Jackie, your background is international relations. What is your view of the world, since you're an international relations expert? Tell us a little about what drove you to be in international relations. What's the story?
Certainly. Well, it all started in high school when I was part of a Model United Nations debate team. But what I really enjoyed about it was not only being able to travel and learning to debate, it's also looking at the world in a different viewpoint. It's more than just what's happening in our country, the United States by itself, but rather than let's take a look at what's happening at other international countries, like if there are any wars going on, like what is their foreign policy? What is their economy like? What are their finances like? How are they doing as a society? Like let's pay attention to it, because most countries like Africa and the Middle East, it's like there are barely any factual and true news reporting on them, or the news reporting will just say terrorists in the Middle East, terrorists in Africa. And it's like the same, generic constant reporting of that, 24/7. It's not actual saying, oh, okay, like let's take a look at the regime behind Syria, or what is the financial and economic situation looking in Africa or in different parts of the Middle East, or why is Israel having such an aggressive stance, towards other Middle Eastern countries. So normally those viewpoints aren't, looked at in a different lighting. Rather, it's very one-sided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just got a note that came on the wire, which is quite interesting. Here's a fun fact: the medals are made of old phones, metal images or overlays. I had no idea if that's really.
No, what happened is that Japan Olympic Committee, they were collecting the old phones around the world, basically from past couple of years, and then they have used those metals to create these medals.
So those are old phones.
And it's all old phones and converted into medals.
Okay, all right. And a couple other fun facts to know: faster, higher, and stronger together. That's the updated Olympic motto. The final words were added to this week's highlight and the need for unity during the pandemic. So the thing is, they're adding things. So what to watch for in baseball and softball? This was last seen in Beijing in 2008. Both men's basketball and women's softball will be a competition among teams from just six nations. I didn't know they only have 6 nations. And karate men and women will compete in Kodo and Kumite events. Skateboarding is the thing to watch because they've never had that before. Athletes will show off their skill in 2 basically different types of areas: street, which features stars and ratings, and park mostly compete on a course. And there's sports climbing, rock climbing, which will be very interesting. So there's some new events to watch at this Olympics that we're going to follow on the IBM TV network and update people tomorrow. And hopefully when we get the update, we'll be able to, be able to produce some very important things on the show. And here's the most important one. There we go. The USA is great. And hopefully we'll be able, who's this? Somebody won something?
Yeah. So this is the person who won the gold in Taekwondo, Judo.
Right.
And then the tally for the today's tally for Olympics, basically.
Is the United States winning yet?
There is no United States at this point of time. China, then you have Italy, Japan.
China, Italy. Did you see Italy sent a big contingent? Japan did too. Wow.
Yeah. Japan,
wow.
Korea, Ecuador, Hungary, Iran, Kosovo. I don't know about this country. Kosovo.
Kosovo is a breakup of Yugoslavia. I mean, they had all these countries just tore apart, and so now there's Kosovo. And this is another thing I don't get. We'd have to talk to somebody from Kosovo. Why are you different than the Serbians?
Remember, we had one of the guests from Yugoslavia earlier. Remember?
Yeah. She was from Serbia. Yeah, the thing is, but again, the thing is, there was this big breakup in Yugoslavia, and what I got to do is find out what the breakup was all about. Okay.
And what is ROC? I don't know what is this country, ROC.
ROC. Oh, that's Russia. Okay. Now you'll love the politics on this one, Ankit, because the Russians. ROC is Russia. Okay. Let me tell you the backstory. Because Russia cheated. Russia cheated years ago in Sochi by doping their people, and the government was behind it. Well, this is becoming a pattern here, guys. So the punishment was, because you really don't want to punish the athletes. They had nothing to do with it, or if they did, they're basically complicit because the government tells them to do something to do it. Okay, so what they did to allow the athletes to compete, but not give Russia a brand, they made them compete under ROC. Okay, which I think in a way is dumb, but in a way is smart, because the thing is, it goes back to, how do you punish bad actors without punishing the people that weren't involved? In other words, you don't really want the athletes in Russia to be punished for this because, I've been to Russia and there are a lot of good people in Russia. In other words, I enjoyed my time in St. Petersburg. I got to play chess with some of the Russians there. They were very courteous to make sure they got me with one of the chess players, top masters to play. We ate at this restaurant. The poor lady could barely speak English, but the place I was staying at, the Petra Palace in St. Petersburg, it has to be a palace, Okay, so Petro Palace, get it? Samodi Palace. Okay, they were really nice, and all the places I went to, other than the pickpockets from Azerbaijan, everything was fine. There were little pickpockets running around. They took $20 from me or something like that. But they left me on my. They dropped my wallet to make sure I got to keep all my cards, which was more important.
Okay.
But the thing is, Russia is Russia. And see, a lot of the athletes, it's just like a lot of the chess players, like Alexander Starr. He came over here. He's not a bad person, but he just couldn't stand some of the goofiness that exists over there. So there's a lot of the Russians that are good people that should be allowed to compete. Anyway, ROC is Russia. That's a long story for that being Russia.
Yeah, that's a long story.
Yeah. So then we have Serbia, Belgium, Spain, India. Hey, India's up there. Wait, you're ahead of us. Where's the USA?
Yeah.
Are we boycotting the game or something?
I don't think the USA is anywhere to be found. I think we might be like lower.
Okay. Well,
as of now, whatever games happen, USA is not that active actually on those games.
Well, we know how to cheat. We know how to cheat too. So what we can do is we can change all these this data gathering, or else I can just fix this right away. Here we go. There we go. Or if you know anything about media, we can even change this also. Okay.
So these are the competition happened today basically. This is the competition, and this is the results starting from today morning.
Yeah, well, this is getting really bothersome. Well, when things like this become very troublesome. There we go. I just changed the banner. U.S. wins 2021. What we do in media, if we don't like what's going on, we just change it, Jackie.
Just create a story.
So we just create the news. Since the U.S. isn't winning any medals, I'll just put up the USA wins in 2021.
USA won the game against France.
I know. I predicted that yesterday, that they were going to beat France. And we did beat France in basketball. Come on.
And we beat the Mongolians as well. Mongolia.
Oh, yeah. We beat Mongolia.
But I don't see Mongolia on the map right now because I think China acquired Mongolia as well.
Oh, China did. Yeah, they acquired Mongolia. They're in acquisition. They're in acquisition mode right now. Yeah, so they're acquiring other countries, just like companies acquire other companies. They're acquiring other countries, increasing their land mass. But no matter how they increase their land mass, they're not going to be as big as Russia.
But Nick, you know that they're looking for more people for the job. Basically, anyone can apply for M&A job in China.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay, all right. So
they want more people so that they can acquire the world.
Okay. Yeah. Well, also they're spreading their economy around the world too. So they're buying a lot of Africa right now. So they're buying anybody who wants to be sold to them. So you could be part of China. We just need to change our motto. Rather than IBM TV, it will be called Chinese IBM TV. And we're good. Just like Chinese Taiwan. We need to think about that because we have a hard time broadcasting into China because of all their rules. Yeah. So we need to just change our thing. It'll be Chinese IBM TV.
Yeah. And then you are accepted.
Yeah, and then we're accepted. We're like Chinese Taipei, except we're Chinese IBM TV. And they're I think they'll be cool with that. So that's good. Wow, there's a lot of games going on. So
yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of stuff. Boy, you could be in athlete heaven here. Unbelievable.
Yeah, true. And then in the
Wow.
baseball, USA
beach volleyball. Here's another backstory on beach volleyball. You'll love this one. The Norwegians didn't want to wear bikinis, and they got fined by the International Olympic Committee. If you're a lady and you're going to be in beach volleyball, you better be wearing your bikini. Okay, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
And
Why
USA
is that?
lost the beach volleyball. USA lost it to Netherlands.
We lost in beach volleyball?
Yeah, check out.
Ew, that's not good. We should be winning in beach volleyball. Can we change that score, Ankit?
I think so. You have
Okay.
to just
Just a
release
minute.
some funds, and then I'll get it changed.
Yeah, okay, just a minute. I'm going to change it.
And then you lost boxing as well, right here. And then you won the boxing game. How big is the Syrian contingent, Jackie? Any idea about the Syrian contingent in
I'm sorry?
Olympics? How many?
How big is
Syrian
Syria? How many athletes from Syria?
I think the athletes that are representing Syria, the team isn't too big, so they are probably less than 100 players that are playing. And also, like in the Olympics, we saw there are other Syrian athletes, but they are playing on different teams. And
Mhm.
some of the Syrian athletes that are competing on different teams are also related to each other. And so, what I saw on the Olympics the other day is some of the Syrian players were embracing one another at the Olympics.
Mhm.
So since they are playing on different teams.
Okay. Well, in media, we've learned this from Fox News over here, that you can change facts. Here we go. There we go. So now the USA just won beach volleyball, even though we know that's not true, but it's entertaining since we just lost.
And they're spreading COVID here and there.
Yeah, right. So you just change whatever the facts might be.
So this is Hong Kong. So I think China have multiple countries like China, Chinese Taipei, and then Hong Kong, then Macau, and then Mongolia.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
Wow.
So they're all
Boy, there's a lot of games to follow. So what we'll do is we'll just have to highlight some of the events that take place, and I guess what will happen is that this will shrink over the next several days.
Yeah.
Because right now it's just voluminous with the amount of people that are competing against each other, and the countries that they represent are just unreal. Well, maybe China will start taking over some of these countries, and then we won't have that many to report, Ankit. I mean, they should take over Tonga. It should be Chinese Tonga. They should take over a lot of.
Yeah.
Then there's everything's under the Chinese banner, and then we don't have to worry about having all this. Then they can finish all the competition else.
But they can do a Chinese Olympics basically rather than doing the Olympics. It could be Chinese Olympics.
Yeah, all right. Then they can have the Chinese Olympics and Beijing. I think Beijing is going to host the Summer and Winter Olympics one year, and they really did a great job on their opening several years ago in Beijing. I thought it was the best I've ever seen. So hopefully they'll be able to get that, and we'll have to work on adding another channel to us called Chinese IBM TV, and that'll upset the people. That'll upset the Chinese, or they'll like it. Or it'll upset IBM, or they'll like it. I don't care. We'll just be Chinese IBM TV. We got to look for that URL. Well, they paved the way. They've already showed the way. Chinese Taipei, and then all of a sudden, hey, you're wonderful. We like you. So we'll be Chinese IBM TV. So Jackie, if you run into some people from China, let us know because we need more. We only have one Vivian's China show right now, and Vivian is actually a person who lives in the United States who's from Shandu, who give us a report on what's going on in China. But we're always looking for, more Chinese in the second world's largest economy. So, okay. So we got some pretty good stuff going on here, Ankit. All right. So is there anything else? Because we're going to start wrapping up.
Nothing else. I mean, I think today's medal tally is almost done. So now it's about tomorrow's schedule. So I can just share the schedule, what's happening tomorrow.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we're going to look at tomorrow's schedule. Yeah, because the rest of the day we'll just have to see what's going on. Because right now it's just the opening ceremonies. Hopefully Ada and Kira will be joining us. They came in yesterday, but then they had health issues that took place. I wasn't sure if I was going to be on Ankit because just as we signed off, my computer blinked on me, and I have a guy coming out to try to fix it this afternoon. But the thing is, then it came back on. To give you an idea, that's the reason I'm even on here right now. I thought I wasn't going to be on because my computer went off, and so I missed the World Edition because that life and things happen. That's why we need a team of people, because you never know what something's going to happen.
But you know that you have a suggestion. You have a suggestion on private chat what to do with your system.
What to do with the system? I got an IT guy coming out who's going to.
No, I know, but there is a suggestion on a private chat that use a hammer.
Oh, here it is. Use a hammer. Okay, right there we go. Well, I have another computer as a backup, so I got an Apple backup next to me, but it doesn't have all the programs on it.
Yeah.
And see, that's the problem. And then I got another one over there, but it's sitting there just as reserve, and it just takes a while to put all the programs on it. So if you're going to flip from program to program, you don't have a computer, you're kind of toast. So that's the real problem. All right, so tomorrow we're going to start again. Hopefully we'll have some more reports, and maybe the United States will actually win an event. If not, we'll have to figure out how we're going to change all that on a going forward basis. And Jackie, hopefully you did a great job on the fly. That was really good. She's like a pro at this. Amazing.
She's comfortable. She's a pro, and then I think she can be a good resource for IBM TV.
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed, because it's hard to answer questions on the fly or even ask questions on the fly. It's a lot more difficult. Either you can do it or you can't, and you can do it. So that's good. I like that type of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. You have a future here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, any other things to report, Mr. Ankit, before we
That's
sign
it.
off
I think
for today?
we'll stand for the day. We'll see you tomorrow with more medals for USA, so as for India and Syria, and then we'll celebrate Olympics basically.
Okay, and hopefully we'll have our other people join us tomorrow, and we'll see you all back tomorrow on IBM TV's coverage of the Olympics.
Yeah.